So, who in this room is ready to be amped up and be disruptive? Okay. Voltari Marine Electric is leading a revolution. I want everyone to give a big welcome to Cam Heaps, who is a founder, visionary, and chief executive officer, to the stage, who you won't believe what is happening in the village of Merrickville-Woolford. Please give a warm welcome to Cam. Okay. There you go, sir.
Thank you, Ann. Good morning, everybody. Is this on?
There we go.
All right. And I'm just going to make sure I've got this working. It seems to be on a different presentation. Yeah. There we go. Good. Good morning. My name is Cam Heaps. I'm going to spend a few minutes with you this morning. I'm going to share a little bit about my background. I'm going to share a lot about the marine EV industry. And then I'm going to tell you quite a bit about a company called Voltari, which is headquartered up the canal in Merrickville. In 1998, I wrote the business plan for a company called Steam Whistle Brewing and spent quite a number of years after that with a wonderful group of human beings bringing to life what was Steam Whistle in the historic Roundhouse downtown Toronto. And we had set out to go after the two largest breweries in the world, AB InBev and Molson Coors, to repatriate what was the highest margin part of the beer business at the time, import premium, which was dominated by a number of import companies that the large North American breweries were importing. And we had a lot of fun ultimately trying to make the world's best European Pilsner right here in Canada, bringing in advanced machinery from Germany, flying in hops, using spring water, and some guerrilla marketing to go after what has turned out to be Canada's largest independent brewery. Along the way, we grew it to 50 million in sales and 5 million in EBITDA, hired a couple hundred folks, and along the way, we as a team won a number of awards for Canada's coolest culture, North America's most environmentally sensitive brewery, Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year, Deloitte's Canada 50 Best Managed for 10 years, etc. And as life got a little more discretionary income in it, I was able to pursue a deep passion of mine from a young age, which was boating. I started up canoeing in Northern Ontario, and it doesn't take long to fall in love with the rivers, lakes, and also the oceans of this fine country. Canada is the custodian of a third of the world's fresh water and 3 oceans, so it's sort of in our blood. And then, of course, you grow up a little bit, and you get access to a 9.9 horsepower tin boat. And you have what is probably the greatest freedom you're given in life, to tear up and down a lake, long before you get a driver's license. And then, of course, you start playing around with positioning the fuel tank and angling the trim so you can go 1/4 of a mile faster. And you start understanding how boats work and hydrodynamics. Then ultimately in 2008, when the market in the United States softened significantly, all of a sudden you could acquire the boats that I and many others had dreamed of as a young lad, which are the sort of go-fast boats of Miami Vice. And they were pretty much giving them away that year because the market had softened so much. And I started acquiring those and became obsessed with driving them 1,600 nautical miles to a little Caribbean island in the south down by Trinidad called St. Lucia. I had spent the first 2 years of my life down there, and our family had a bit of history. And it's arguably one of the greatest boating destinations of the world, so why not? After many failed attempts, a number of shipwreckings in Georgetown, Exumas, and other locations. We eventually made it. But along that journey, you spent quite a bit of time observing that the fiberglass nature of boats was carrying an incredibly excessive amount of weight. You know, a boat, we don't use the word weight when we talk about boats. It's actually called displacement. And the reason it's called displacement is because every pound of a boat is a pound of water you have to move out of the way or displace. So you can imagine then that optimizing weight efficiency can lead to incredible gains in boating. Watching what was happening in automotive and aerospace industries with the advancement of a wonderful product called carbon fiber. And carbon fiber is one of those very rare products that comes along only once every 50 or 100 years that allows you to build something stronger, yet also lighter. Typically, if you want to build something stronger, you've got to use more of whatever the material you're building it with, and therefore result in a heavier product. So we started cutting up, I started winding down in operations in the brewery side and became obsessed with bringing in advanced carbon fiber hull manufacturing to the marine industry. So we started cutting up top decks, consoles, fuel tanks, and relaminating those with carbon fiber. This was all done with wet hand layup for anybody who knows about lamination. It's sort of the original primitive stage. And we'd take those boats out on the ocean, and we were realizing incredible gains in efficiency, greater speeds at lower RPMs, lower fuel burn, longer range on tanks, you know, all the things that we kind of dream of in performance boating. And then we partnered with the St. Lucia government to bring in a whole set of tooling and actually build the world's first exposed carbon fiber boat. So this time the entire boat was carbon fiber. We took that out on the ocean, and of course the gains we had seen were, even greater. And that's when it became time to take the obsession and turn it into a business model. This was 2010 when we built that first boat. Shortly after that, I ended up in the UK studying aerospace grade carbon fiber manufacturing techniques, process called pre-preg. And that was being done by Lockheed Martin and Boeing at the time. And they were advancing things to a whole nother level of power to weight ratios. So the guy who taught me what I knew over there, we kind of hit it off, and I brought him over to Canada to set up our first facility, which was 2015 in just north of Toronto. And we started doing advanced exposed carbon fiber hulls with combustion engines, continuing the evolution. And then after that, we were watching what was happening in the automotive EV industry. And you will probably all be aware that back in that day, you were seeing incredible gains in what we know as EV technology. And anybody who's been a boater in their life doesn't need to pause too much to realize why EV technology might be attractive to boating. No fuel, lower maintenance, less noise. All these things are really the solution for some of the things that plague the marine industry. So I embarked on a global search for who in the engineering world was advancing or the most advanced in marine EV propulsion at the time. And that global search led me to a couple of engineers in Montreal, Quebec. And these gentlemen had set out in 2009. So again, this is, marine EV is just in its ground zero stage, and I'll get to why in a second. But these guys had set out as avid water skiers north of Montreal on their weekends, where they spent their entire days water skiing up and down the lake, trying to get rid of the emissions that they were breathing. And they bet each other whether or not they could electrify their ski boat. And they set out to find the technology and products that they could ideally get off the shelf to do that. And they were shocked to find, after breaking numerous systems, that there did not exist in the world the technology readily available to resolve the issue of electrifying a boat. And that's quite simply because the automotive EV technology is not designed to give you continuous power that a boat needs to overcome the inefficiency of moving water. And I'll get to more of that in a second. Anyway, I went down with my brother and we test drove their boat. And this was a converted Malibu at the time. And when they hit the throttle on the boat, you know, you have this sort of out-of-body experience because your body's so used to this movement in a boat resulting in noise, vibration, smoke, and fairly unimpressive acceleration. And that when this boat accelerated nimbly without vibration or noise, my passion for combustion ceased that day and became, you know, obsessed with figuring out how to integrate this into marine technology. When you got deeper into understanding that these guys who had the time had their batteries, so they set out to electrify and ended up becoming continuous high kilowatt lithium ion battery manufacturers, because that was the key missing ingredient. And when you got into, okay, so you need incredible amounts of power to overcome water because of how inefficient hydrodynamics is compared to aerodynamics. And then you realize, okay, anyone with a boat knows there's no spring on the throttle. You know, a car will maybe see north of 1,500 RPMs in a day, maybe if you're racing your buddy off a stop sign. But it rarely goes north of that, maybe 1,800, 2,000. A boat will spend almost its entire life between 3, 4, 5, 6,000, now 7,000 with the new motors, RPM. That type of operating threshold for a combustion motor is very much similar to racing motors, which is why they burn so much fuel, why they make so much noise, why they need so much maintenance. And when you get into that conversation with the marine propulsion engineers, you realize that, okay, even once you resolve the battery technology, even once you design a propulsion system that can handle that power, even once you design a system that can manage the heat created by that much kilowatt power, you still have to find a way to put enough capacity into a boat to feed that system to do anything anyone in this room would call usable. And that's when the eureka moment of, well, everything we've been doing in carbon fiber to make a boat lighter and burn less fuel was really ultimately designed as we reduce a hull's weight by about 2,000 pounds to fill it up with lithium ion capacity. And you really need to resolve those two technology challenges in order to do what I would call something impressive enough with marine to be a catalyst for change. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the marine EV industry as a whole. So the global marine industry is commencing its paradigm shift to EV. The reason it's 15 years behind automotive is for the reasons I mentioned, because you cannot take automotive EV technology and drop it in a boat because it will overheat or go into deration because it never needs that kind of power to move a car. Even the most impressive cars don't need that kind of power. And the reason I believe EV is actually better suited for the marine industry than automotive are for the following reasons, in no particular order. The electric charging infrastructure for marine already exists. No new infrastructure is required. Because right now, if you go to any marina in North America, you're going to find a 220 volt marine pedestal sitting beside most slips. Those are either 30, 50, now in Florida, 100 or 1,000 amps. That's all you need for level 2 charging infrastructure. What's that? The reason solar is not a solution for a day-to-day charge because of that amount of power. So 142 kilowatt hours of power on a solar on a small boat would take months to come to full. But there are ways to use it, and I'll talk about those later. If you put it on your cottage or house, feed a battery storage, then you might get a free fill up once in a while. So that's the number one, is the electric charging infrastructure. Number two, people don't take boats nearly the same distances they take cars. The average recreational boater in North America is going 8 to 12 miles in a trip. So if you think of your cell phone, if you plug it in at night, it'll always get you through the next day. And that's how we operate our boats. The other reality of the marine industry is it has a sort of a bit of an untold story that's starting to be told. And I got to admit, I'm guilty, because I've been a boater my whole life and never stopped to think about this. But the exhaust for marine vessels is underneath the water in most applications. We lack even the basic exhaust control technology of catalytic converters. There's not a marine propulsion system I know of today that would pass any of the most basic land-based automotive regulations. So we are discharging that under the water. And of course, boats don't have any mufflers. So we are bouncing the noise off the marine wildlife. And boaters love the water. So that's another reason. The other one is, of course, the oppressive cost of operating a boat. And the reason I say oppressive is because they're almost unattainable. You now have gas boaters driving around at slow speeds with their guests on the weekend, going shorter distances because they don't want to burn as much fuel. The leader in this paradigm shift is going to realize incredible market share capture and enterprise value growth. So Voltari is positioned, which I'm going to get into now, is positioned to be the global leader in marine EV while cleansing the world's waterways of exhaust and noise pollution for generations to come. I'm going to skip through these individual slides, but needless to say, a business plan is nothing without the right humans to execute it. And I'm proud to say we have assembled the most impressive team I know of in global marine EV technology, and many of them live throughout the Leeds Grenville region. I myself and my wife and 4 kids have recently relocated to Smith Falls, which Anne reminds me is just outside of Leeds Grenville. Oh, my alarm's tripping here. I better hurry up. I've talked about the problems of boating. The solution is our boats have drastically reduced operating costs. The motors require zero maintenance. The only maintenance you're left with is changing the lube in your lower unit. We have zero exhaust emissions and eliminate noise pollution. These are the 3 companies we've put together. We acquired the marine propulsion company out of Montreal. Carbon Marine is the historical founding company of Voltari, and Pantera, which is a 40-year legacy offshore championship power company. And we acquired that so that we can now take the world's most advanced marine EV propulsion system, put it in the lightest yet strongest hull manufacturing, and put it in a deep V ocean-worthy hull. And when you put those 3 together, you get this product, which we'll show you a quick video of. And this is Andreas Pruninger, who's the head of Porsche's GT high performance division, test driving a Voltari in Monterey, California this summer.
My love for boating started with the Miami Vice show. This is my getaway from the automotive world, being out on the water, being still in touch with machinery, and I love machinery that's fast and that gives me something to polish, to look at and to maintain. Enjoy your spare time. So all this together means go boating. The automotive industry, we're always looking for lightweight cars, lightweight materials, and when I found out this Voltari is made from carbon fiber, I said, they have the right attitude in doing a premium product, because carbon fiber is a very, very interesting material to work with, and because there's so much positive effects carbon has on a boat. It's very stiff, it's very lightweight, you don't need these big molds. It's maybe a little bit more expensive, but more durable as well. And the looks of the boat, I like the looks of it. It looks very racy, it looks attractive at every angle. There's no chine walking at top speed. There's an auto trim function, which seems to work pretty well. When you look at the backwash of the boat, you can always see if the boat trimmed right. This seems to work pretty good. It's really, really fast. This is a boat I would consider a go fast on the water, definitely. And from what I'm looking in the boat is a very strong point. I see a lot of stuff that is used in boating that's state of the art. If you look at the Garmin setup that we have here in the helm. I like the Alcantara especially because this is something we have in cars too, and which I always loved in cars, and I think it's cool to have it on a boat because it doesn't soak up the heat as much. I like the shade, I like the stereo system on the boat. It's really, really very sophisticated. It's quiet. I can hear the waves and I can hear the hull better without the drone of an engine, which is a new experience. I would really, as my next boat, consider something like this in my boating situation, where I boat with a family on a lake, where I have to be quiet, and I don't like to fill up a boat. It takes forever and is super expensive, and this is something you don't have to do here, because when you're back on your dock, just plug it in, and the next morning you're ready, you're good to go again. So, and this is definitely a plus that I would love to have. It's a great piece of machinery.
So that was the first product we made, which is a recreational 260. We did our prototype in 2022. We did our first commercial product 2023. And by the end of that year, last year, we picked up our first order from the Canadian Coast Guard. And then we were approached. There was a global RFP by the US Navy's largest defense contractor. And we successfully won that at the end of last year. And that opened up a whole new realm for us that we never even expected, which is, unbeknownst to us, the government agencies, law enforcement, coast guards, and defense agencies are actively and have actively been pursuing solutions in this space and have not found a propulsion system that can do what they want. So since then, we're now in conversations with the Department of Defense, Department of Homeland Security, Florida Fish and Wildlife, San Diego Port Police, LA Port Police, etc., for a solution for a government agency patrol boat. So we just launched the world's first electric patrol boat. I'll throw the video up at the end so that I don't ruin the time here. But needless to say, right now in the world, we are in the government institution space without competition. We are the only marine EV integrated provider that can provide an offshore capable, saltwater capable marine EV solution for government. And that won't last forever. So we're working hard to take advantage of that. There's going to be a little Q&A at the end, so I'm just going to power through this. The charging solutions we talk about, our company does offer those solutions. The first two on the left is the level 2, which you can plug into any marina. The level 3 on the right is what we sell to various law enforcement folks that have a base. So they can, in a shift change, they can fill up 50% in 10 minutes. So right now, the first application we delivered to San Diego is running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you can imagine the operating costs of people running fleet boats. If anybody's a recreational boater running a few hours on the weekend, this is going to save them about $1.2 million over a 10-year op window. This is our headquarters, global headquarters, just down up the canal here. We do the Voltari power systems in Montreal. We are working on an expansion facility in Merrickville where we will add battery manufacturing capacity. Some of the other applications we have for our batteries are any continuous high kilowatt use. We've done a number of rail shunts there in the middle. air starter units, and unmanned military vehicles. We've recently launched the brand headquarters in the United States in Fort Lauderdale, as 90% of our product will be exported to the United States of America. The global industry is about $65 billion for small craft. About half of that is North America. And many experts assume about 1/3 of that is going to transition to EV in the next 5 years. And currently the industry is in denial or asleep on the legacy side, because in the marine industry, manufacturers don't make their propulsion. They make the boat, and then they use third-party propulsion. So they have to switch to carbon fiber. Their propulsion guys have to switch to electric. The combustion folks are earning the best margin in history. Any investment in electric will just cannibalize their own market share. So it's a very interesting time to leverage those barriers to entry. If you look at the car industry in 2003, you'll see the legacy performance guys top left, mainstream bottom left, performance on one axis, sustainability on the other. You had Prius and Volt, and then along came Tesla and went to the top right corner and said, we're not just going to be electric for the sake of electric. We're going to make electric exciting and make a better vehicle and experience, leveraging the benefits of electric. And that's what set off the catalyst for change. And if you look at the marine industry, you'll see we very strategically have placed ourselves in that top corner. And you'll find most of the other companies lack the performance. So just to recap, I hope you enjoyed a little bit of a background story, learning more about the marine EV industry and why EV is better suited for marine than automotive, and why I believe the Tesla of the marine industry is going to be headquartered right here in Leeds, Grenville, or is headquartered in Leeds, Grenville, and will have a very exciting 5 years for the region. Thank you for joining me today. And I should mention, there is a very limited investment opportunity left. If anybody cares to talk more about it, you're welcome to approach. Thank you all for your time.
Okay, so we're only going to do 2 questions, but we'll run the video. But if there's 2 questions, then 1, 2, and then we'll get on to our next presentation. Who wants one? There you go. Okay, just there was 2 questions. 1, 2. Just keep your hands up so they can see where you are. And Carol will go at the front first.
Good morning. Just a curious question about the going to the electric drive systems. Does that require a complete redesign of prop and everything else? Because that insane amount of torque driven by the DC motor.
So with regards to the props, we were able to leverage marine props because, like I like to say, is the prop doesn't know what's turning it. It just knows what RPM it likes to be turned at. And because we're digital, when we went to the prop manufacturer originally, they said, send us your torque curve. And we said, well, what torque curve would you like? Because we've got access to 1,000 foot-pounds of torque at 1 RPM all the way over to 6 to 9,000. So the limitation was on the drive. So we went with a military grade drive from Conrad that can take that torque. And we don't need a transmission. So there's no impeller, self-cooled, lowest maintenance drive on the planet.
So if we can,
No.
if we can go to the second question.
I'll grab me after. I'll chat with you.
I know, I have to do it every time. Second question, go ahead.
Is the I love the drive concept and the electric. Is the carbon fiber hull any less prone to the problems of glass and saturation and moisture contamination in the hull?
Yeah, nowadays with lamination, with the vinyl ester resins and epoxy resins, we've pretty much removed water osmosis. So, generally with carbon fiber, you're using the more advanced resins. So,
Excellent.
Yeah.
Big
For
round
life.
of applause for Cam.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, sir. Are you staying around for a little bit?
Yeah, I'll
sir?
stick around. Yeah.
So Cam, here's your goodie bag.
Oh, thank you, Ann.
So
Yes.
Cam will be staying
By the way,
around.
Ann was the first person outside of the staff to come through the facility.
Yeah.
Yeah, many years ago. Early believer.
Early believer. So
Yeah.
Cam will stick around and join us for some of the lunch. So he's got a box of business cards if anybody wants a boat or otherwise. So please take the time to chat with him during the lunchtime. Super.
Thanks, Ann.